Tang Tianyu, male, 18 years old this year, is a senior high school student in H County No. 1 Middle School. There are about a few months to prepare for the college entrance examination. Because his parents wanted him to grow up healthy, happy, and happily, they named him God Bless before he was born, meaning that he was born with a child blessed by God. Unfortunately, reality is full of skinny. Since he was born, he has been different from other children, because others were pregnant in October, but he was born in 7 months, so he was a premature baby and was born with stunted growth. I don't know if it is because of this that he has grown very thin since he was a child, as if even a gust of wind could blow him away. Once he accidentally collided with a weaker female classmate while running in the school playground, and he flew out. The weaker female classmate stood there with a strange look. Tang Tianyu, he ran away in shame. What made him feel most helpless was that he was only 1.5 meters tall, and he had to raise his head to talk to others when he walked, for fear that others would not find him. What's more sad is that if he is not careful, he will be driven out by the teachers in the 3rd year of the senior year who mistakenly thought that it was a primary school student who came to the classroom to make trouble. This kind of thing has not known how many times it happened. Even in his studies, he is undisputed first from the bottom. From the 1st grade of elementary school to the present, he has never fallen out of this ranking. His grades are extremely stable. Although he studies very hard, his progress is close to nothing, teacher. We can only helplessly say, the student has a lot of room for growth. Therefore, he was given an extremely humiliating nickname by his classmates, Xiaokeu. Although he fought vigorously at that time and even ignored them, the power of the people is extremely powerful. He has fought for more than 10 years and has not changed his nickname. There is no way he can only admit it silently. In the evening of this day, Xiaokeu, no, Tang Tianyu is walking home very depressed, because today is the day of the school's monthly test scores. There is no doubt that he is the last in every subject, and the total score is the last one. 1, without the slightest change, in the eyes of the students gloating, sympathy, or contempt, in the eyes of the teachers extremely disappointed, Tang Tianyu led away this cross-examination paper blankly. In fact, he didn't understand how he thought about it. It was obvious that he had worked hard to study, but his grades did not improve at all. On the contrary, people who didn't work hard in the ordinary day got very high scores in the test. Is there really such a big difference between? Even though his parents comforted him that everyone's talents are different. Some people are better at learning, some are better at painting, and some are talented in singing. As long as you can dig out your own talent can also become a great person. However, it has been a full 18 years since he has survived, and he hasn't found out what kind of talent he has. Instead, he has always been a waste material in the eyes of others. In fact, being able to live for so long in the contempt and blind eyes of others without embarking on the path of crime is already a good education for parents. In other words, based on his physical condition, it is estimated that it is difficult to commit a crime. Although his words are awkward, the criminal is not a promising career for everyone. Just as Tang Tianyu was thinking wildly, he found that he had unknowingly walked into a small alley. Here is a piece of Hessian, he can't see his fingers, and exudes an incomparably weird aura. This is where the sins survive. The best soil. He had long heard that there had been homicides in this small alley, so most people were reluctant to come here. On the contrary, many small gangsters liked to come here for gatherings, which made it a place where dirt and mists were hidden. Therefore, Tang Tianyu usually doesn't like to come here, even close to him, but today because of a trance, he accidentally walked here. I was really affected by the test today. Let's go quickly. Otherwise, wait a minute and don't know what will happen? Tang Tianyu thought secretly. However, just as Tang Tianyu was about to leave, in the alley of Hesensen, there was a scream of Zi, which was the sound of the clothes being torn. Not only that, it was accompanied by a bit of female painful crying, mixed with a few excited gasps, and the sound of body struggling. In the dark alley, it seemed so eerie and weird. Is this rape? This was Tang Tianyu's first thought, and he immediately ignited a terrible anger in his heart. I couldn't think of this scene that I could only see in newspapers and TV. I didn't expect to encounter it in reality. This, really a bunch of beasts. However, before long, Tang Tianyu's anger soon subsided. The reason is simple. He is just a waste material with a height of only 1.5 meters and a body so small that even a girl can fly. Why can he be in a group? How about the vicious gangsters to save people? Moreover, his parents told him that those who are able to save people are heroes, those who are unable to save people can only be martyrs, or the kind of unknown, therefore, don't be fools. Therefore, Tang Tianyu hesitated, was terrified and didn't even dare to look back. However, it suddenly occurred to him that this young girl who may be at the age of a flower like a jade, with extremely sad eyes and struggling hard, was forcibly held down by a group of vicious criminals and violated wantonly, and then by a group of people in the days to come. People can't bear the tremendous pressure and commit suicide. Cannot do it. How can I make this happen? How could I? Saw a living life, fading away in front of my own eyes. I will never allow this kind of thing. Anyway, I'm just a waste material. Blessing. I'm so bad. If there is anything to be afraid of, just be a fool. Tang Tianyu thought angrily. Even the humble soul can do great things. Therefore, Tang Tianyu quickly called the police and couldn't wait for the arrival of the police. With a rush of blood in his heart, he rushed into the alley and shouted, "TMD, stop it!" The sound is like thunder. The criminals who were committing the crime were suddenly startled, thinking that the police had arrived. They quickly let go of the young woman who had been pressed to the ground, and looked outside in a panic. However, when they realized that the so-called policeman in front of them was just a 1.5-meter tall child, they couldn't help but feel so happy. They had never seen such a fool. The beautiful young woman who was forcibly pressed to the ground had a very happy face, but at this time she also showed extremely disappointed eyes. It would be better not to come to such a hero. Hee, kid, you'd better go home for milk, see that this kind of thing is not suitable for you. A small couldn't help but laugh. Little devil, you have to pay the price of blood if you want to be righteous and brave. A tall said viciously, winking, and wanted his accomplices to stop him. If someone discovers such a thing, they will be sent to prison for the rest of their lives, so this child must not be allowed to escape. Tang Tianyu saw these men with full faces and a fierce look ready to walk over. He was so scared that he was trembling and his legs were trembling, but he still calmly said, "I have already called the police, you better get out of here quickly, or wait for the police to come, you won't even have a chance to run." What? The gangsters were shocked, their expressions were very flustered, and they looked at each other, while the woman who was pressed on the ground showed surprise eyes, and it seemed that she could escape today. Just when Tang Tianyu thought these would run away quickly, he did not expect that the tall suddenly became fierce, and said viciously, "Damn kid! The great thing today is just like this, and you will be disturbed. That's it. Even if your kid is out of luck, today we will teach you a profound lesson. Hit me to death!" The tall shouted. Before Tang Tianyu could react, several fierce gangsters gathered around, punching and kicking, calling for the most important beating, and beating to death. Not long after, Tang Tianyu wailed for a while and fell to the ground with a plop, unconscious. The skinny nervously touched Tang Tianyu's nose with his hand. Yu read www.yuyuganshu.com, choked deeply, and stammered, he's out of breath. As soon as this statement came out, the other companions suddenly became frightened, trembling constantly. They were really dead. If this is caught, he will definitely be sentenced to death. What is it? The tall cursed angrily. Suddenly, the other companions calmed down. Although their faces were still a little panic, they still barely calmed down. It seems that this tall is very prestigious among them. Pack your things, the police are coming, let's leave here quickly. The tall said decisively. Therefore, the gangsters did not care about the woman who fell to the ground, and ran away in a hurry, and the woman saw Tang Tianyu who fell on the ground, gritted her teeth, struggled to get up from the ground, and quickly ran away. Only the unconscious Tang Tianyu left in the empty alley. I saw that Tang Tianyu was bleeding from a place, his body was covered with scars and his face was beaten into pig heads. Of course he was not dead yet, but it took a long time to breathe, but the was too flustered, so he didn't notice this kind of thing. However, he was also beaten to death. He opened his mouth and breathed in and out. If there was no one to save him, he would probably die from bleeding too much. At this moment, there seemed to be something abnormal in the sky. The space in the alley twisted for a while, revealing a lonely hole, exuding an aura of destruction. Suddenly a durian-like fruit fell out of it, just hitting Tang Tianyu's mouth. It's just that this fruit that looks like a durian, with strange spiral golden patterns on the skin, is noble and mysterious. It seems to be the most incredible existence in this world. Tang Tianyu, who was in a daze, was awakened by this strange fruit that fell from the sky, and he felt that there seemed to be a strange thing in his mouth. Tang Tianyu opened his eyes laboriously, and took a glance. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, this look drew out the anger all over his body. I rub? Which guy is it all right to throw durians? Is there a sense of ethics? The most shameful thing is, how can I deal with a severely wounded number like this, if I was thrown in my mouth fortunately? If it weren't for him to be seriously injured now and unable to move his whole body, he would definitely yell at him, and even desperately tried to find the guy with no ethics, and then brutally crushed him. It's a pity that now he can only stare at this strange durian fiercely with anger, and then exhausted the last bit of strength in his body to eat it. Vomit. It's so terrible. This smell, like stool. Nima. No wonder that wicked guy would throw it away. Durian that is so unpalatable is the only one. Tang Tianyu thought angrily. He wanted to spit it out on the spot, but the fruit seemed to be alive, and the flesh on his body immediately turned into liquid, passed through his throat and poured into his stomach. Tang Tianyu was shocked, eating such unpalatable fruit into his stomach, maybe he will have diarrhea for a few days. So, he kept retching, desperately trying to spit it out. However, what is eaten is only pulled out, how can it be vomited out? No way. After Tang Tianyu worked hard for a while, he had no choice but to give up. Isn't it possible to have diarrhea for a few days? Lao Tzu is not even afraid of death, is he still afraid of you, a little durian? Tang Tianyu thought fiercely. However, it was only after a while suddenly, there was a sharp pain in the head, as if countless ants burrowed into it, and the muscles, bones, and meridians all over the body were twitching violently. This kind of pain that exceeds the limit of humans has caused the human neural response mechanism. With Tang Tianyu spit out a mouthful of foam, and after a while of convulsions, he was completely unconscious. The last thought before he went into a coma was, I will never eat durian again. At this moment, there was a sirensman of Daiwu, Daiwu, Daiwu in the distance, and then a few people in white coats walked in quickly. It turned out that the beautiful woman still couldn't stand the torment in her heart. Just made a phone call and called an ambulance. When the doctors and nurses carried Tang Tianyu into the ambulance, no one noticed. Suddenly, a white light flashed on his body. After a while, the scars that had been scary healed slowly, and the blood stopped flowing. A strange force is helping him repair his body. The First People's Hospital of H County. Tang Tianyu was lying quietly on the hospital bed, with a very peaceful expression, completely without the ugly face caused by the severe pain just now. His parents were nervously by his side, showing a sad face, and that the woman who was rescued was afraid that this matter would be implicated on her, so she left early. Dr. Chen, how is my son's situation now? Mother Tang's eyes were flushed and red, and she asked in a choked voice, "Which am beating him like this? You must know that Tang Tianyu has been frail and sick since she was a child, and she was in poor health, which made her very worried. Unexpectedly, this time she was injured so badly that she might have died directly. How could she not worry about this situation?" Father Tang hugged her and kept comforting. Although he was worried, he was the pillar of the family. If he collapsed, the whole family would collapse, so he must not show any weakness. Expressions. The doctor surnamed Chen hesitated for a moment, picked up the report and looked at it carefully. He held the glasses with his hand and said slowly, "Ms. Tang, your son's situation is very strange." "What? Has the situation worsened?" Mother Tang almost fainted when she heard it. "No, no." Dr. Chen said quickly when he saw this, "I mean, the situation is just the opposite. What's strange is that his body is so good that it can be compared to those athletes who exercise regularly. The reason why there is no awakening may be due to severe stimulation and mental trauma. It stands to reason. Then when can he wake up?" Mother Tang asked hurriedly. She didn't care about any strange problems. It was the best thing for her to be okay with her son. "If there were no accidents, I would be able to wake up in a couple of days," Dr. Chen said comfortingly. Since his family members are not interested in this, he doesn't need to say more. After all, is good health a bad thing? Okay, let's not bother Tianyu to rest here, let's go back and have a rest, you haven't closed your eyes for a few days," Father Tang said with a little pain. "Yet." Mother Tang nodded and didn't say anything. Now that she knew that her son's situation had stabilized, she was gradually relieved. As a result, the doctor, Tang's father, and Tang's mother all left the ward one after another, leaving only Tang Tianyu alone in the bed to rest quietly. It's just that no one knows that earth-shaking changes have taken place in Tang Tianyu at this time. The bones of the body were cracking and the voice was low, so no one noticed. At the same time, his muscles, nerves, blood, and meridians are all beginning to undergo new changes, and even the genes in the deepest part of the body are undergoing drastic changes. The spiral structure is constantly broken, reorganized, jumped again and again. Genetic changes to an incredible point. It seems that a peculiar rule of heaven and earth is transforming him to adapt to the peculiar energy deep in the body, making him more in line with the rule of this heaven and earth. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I don't know how long it took before Tang Tianyu, who was lying on the hospital bed, woke up quietly, opened his eyes and looked straight to the sky. What you can see is a white ceiling. Hey? Have I been sent to the hospital now? But why does my head hurt so much? Tang Tianyu pondered all this silently. In the constant thoughts, waves, slices, tidal-like information emerged from Tang Tianyu's mind, causing him to tremble on the spot, completely stunned there. At this time, he finally understood what had happened just now. It turned out that the strange fruit he ate was called devil fruit, and it was a magical plant from the world of One Piece. Devil fruit, it is called the sea secret treasure in the eccentric plane. No one knows where it came from or when it began to appear. It is said that it is the incarnation of the demon of the sea. As long as you eat it, you will have abilities that no one else in the world can imagine, such as the ability to breathe fire, the ability to control wind, and so on. However, although the devil fruit can endow the eater with powerful abilities, it also brings a significant side effect: unable to swim. Those with abilities will be spurned by the sea, and they will be land ducks throughout their lives. As long as they come into contact with a certain amount of sea water, they will become weak, but their abilities are still there. Even if half of their body is submerged by ordinary water, they will be faint. And this devil fruit that was eaten by Tang Tianyu is the devil fruit that is hailed as the most destructive by the ectopic planet Shocking Fruit, possessing the power to destroy the world. Not only that, it also carries the strongest man in the One Piece world, Whitebeard, a lifetime memory. That is to say, because this huge memory flooded into Tang Tianyu's mind, his brain couldn't adapt for a while, so his head suffered severe pain, and he remained unconscious. The next morning the morning sun shines through the curtains of the ward, making the dim room brighter, and there are waves of bird calls outside, giving the hospital a bit of life in this slightly cold place. With a squeak, the door of the ward was opened, and a sweet-looking little nurse walked in with the potion, while Tang Tianyu just woke up and lay on the bed, staring at the white ceiling with dreamily eyes. He was shocked by what happened to him. Oh my God! The patient is awake, the patient is awake! The little nurse covered her mouth with her little hand, opened her eyes, and shouted in surprise. After speaking, Tang Tianyu just wanted to say something, but the confused little nurse didn't mean to listen to him at all. Surprised screams were accompanied by footsteps. With a bang at the door, his parents and Dr. Chen hurriedly walked into the ward. I saw that both Father Tang and Mother Tang looked at Tang Tianyu with joy, while Dr. Chen in a white coat walked in, picked up the equipment to check on Tang Tianyu's body. What's the matter? His expression is very serious. During the whole process, Tang Tianyu just watched calmly, watching his body being tossed and tossed, because he had no idea how many times he had experienced similar things, and he had become accustomed to it. Okay, there is no problem. His physical condition is very good. If it is not for fear of recurrence of the disease, he can be discharged from the hospital now. Dr. Chen checked for a while, took off the receiver, and said with a smile. That's great. Thank you really, Dr. Chen. Mother Tang held Dr. Chen's hand tightly and said excitedly. Dr. Chen looked embarrassed and said, it's nothing, this is just our doctor's responsibility. He can recover so well, in fact, it depends on his good physical fitness. Good physical fitness? Her son has been insulated from these words since he was a child. However, Mother Tang didn't think too much, she was already occupied by the matter of her son's awakening in her heart, and she was full of joy. God, how are you feeling now? Is there any place you feel uncomfortable? Do you want Dr. Chen to check again? Mother Tang turned away from Dr. Chen, and asked with concern to Tang Tianyu. Father Tang's name is Tang Aguo, which is a very common name. It is estimated that there are thousands of people calling this name in the country. Now he runs a Master Tang fast food restaurant and is a chef. Almost all of his family's living expenses are from this restaurant. Expenses inside, so this fast food restaurant is also the lifeblood of their family. Tang's mother's name is Zhang Han, an ordinary housewife who usually works as a cashier at Master Tang's fast food restaurant, and occasionally serves as a waiter. She is a gentle, virtuous, and respectful mother. Tang Tianyu also has a younger sister who is 2 years younger than him, named Tang Xieying. She is now in her first year of high school, and she is also in H County's No. At this moment, Tang Aguo did not make a sound, but quietly looked at Tang Tianyu, standing beside the hospital bed, but the curvature of the corners of his mouth and the joyful eyes all proved that he had always loved Tang Tianyu. When Tang Tianyu heard Tang's mother's questioning, he was deeply moved. He didn't dislike his mother's nagging at all, because no matter how wasteful his body was and how low his grades were, his parents never gave up because of it. He complained about him, but always encouraged him. To be honest, he has always felt that if he finds something to be thankful for in his 18 years of tragic life, it is undoubtedly that he can be born in this happy family. Mom, I'm fine. Now my whole body is full of strength, even if a tiger is standing in front of me, it can be beaten to death with one punch. Tang Tianyu raised his thin fist and said gestures. Zhang Han listened and chuckled, you child, you will talk nonsense. If the tiger stands in front of you, you may be eaten by you. However, seeing that Tang Tianyu was so energetic, she was relieved. Originally, she was worried that Tang Tianyu's body would get worse because of this. Mom, can I leave the hospital now? I don't like staying here. Tang Tianyu frowned and said. That's because he has been frail and sick since he was a child. He often worked with medicine jars and often had to run to the hospital. So from the bottom of his heart, he hated hospitals, and hated this place where disinfectant water was everywhere. Because this feeling seems to tell him that he is not a normal person, so if it is not a last resort, he will never come to the hospital. Of course Zhang Han understands her son's mood well, but she is still very worried because Tang Tianyu has suffered such a serious injury and has been in poor health since she was a child. Now it is not certain that there will be any root causes of the disease. So even if her son hates the hospital anymore, I have to observe here for a few days before I can go back. No, your body may have relapses. If you get sick again, what should you do? Are you going to be sent back to the hospital again? Zhang Han said sternly, without compromise. Tang Tianyu had no choice but to compromise as soon as he heard it, because the orders given by his stubborn mother could not be violated. Anyway, he only needs to stay in the hospital for a few days, and the time is not long, he can bear it. After about an hour, the ward gradually calmed down, leaving only Tang Tianyu resting on the bed. Now he finally has time to study the changes that have occurred in his body. Tang Tianyu slowly stretched out his right hand from the quilt. Yu read www.yuyuganshu.com and watched attentively, meditating in his heart, and his ability to activate the air seemed to produce a strange shock, as if the space in front of him was folded, producing a trace of ripples. Although his power at this time was very weak, it was undoubtedly extremely powerful. From the memory he got, it can be known that the devil fruit he ate was called shocking fruit. It has the ability to shake the outside world. It belongs to the superhuman system. It can trigger a tsunami through shaking, and even shatter space when it activates its ability. When the fruit is used to the extreme, it can even cause the earth to tilt seriously, and the sea water backflows, which is a very powerful fruit. Naturally, he also inherited this ability and can start vibrations at will, but now he can control the range of vibrations and the intensity of the vibrations is still very weak. For example, Tang Tianyu's ability can only be used for massage. Despite this, Tang Tianyu was already very excited, and even tears filled his eyes, because this was a superpower. What is superpower? That is to have the ability to surpass ordinary people. What is a superpower? That is a genius far beyond ordinary people, a Superman who can do things that ordinary people can't do. Obtaining superpowers is simply a gift from God to Tang Tianyu, who has never been praised by anyone for 18 years. Even if he obtains some ordinary superpowers, he is very excited, because it means that he is not a waste material, that he is not worthless, and that he is also gifted. The excited Tang Tianyu is like a child getting a new toy, constantly experimenting with the newly acquired superpowers, playing for a whole night, until the mental power is exhausted before stopping, then fainted on the bed, with sweetness the smile fell asleep. The next morning, Tang Tianyu, who had played with superpowers all night yesterday, woke up slowly, lying on the bed thinking about it, and thinking excitedly, what can he do with this superpower? Before he could think about it clearly, suddenly a sharp knock on the door of boom, boom, boom sounded in the silent ward, interrupting Tang Tianyu's contemplation, causing him to frown. It must be the confused little nurse, Tang Tianyu thought secretly. Come in. The helpless Tang Tianyu could only call her in. After all, she might just come to change his dressing, and it was her job, and it was impossible to know that it had disturbed herself. At this moment, Tang Tianyu thought to himself, it seems that to test his abilities, he has to return home first. There are so many people here, it is too dangerous, and you may be exposed if you are not careful. He knew clearly from the memory of Whitebeard that even in the world where One Piece is a powerful man, there will be many ignorant people who do not know the power of the devil fruit, and thus regard those children who have exposed their power as children. Monsters, burn them alive. This is the case in the world of One Piece. Not to mention that although many ordinary people admire superpowers on this scientifically prosperous earth, if superpowers really appear in front of him, they will probably be scared to death. Unhelpfulness will make you feel uneasy, which is the same as Yegonghailong. At that time, not only ordinary people will be afraid of you, but even the government will be very interested in you. They will be caught in the laboratory for sectioning and study, and then locked up in it, unable to come out for the rest of their lives. Therefore, although Tang Tianyu can't read books, he is very clear about this kind of serious matter, that is, superpowers must not be exposed to anyone. Even the parents can't do it, because this approach not only has no effect, but may harm them. While Tang Tianyu was thinking, the little nurse crept in, holding the medicine bottle in her hand, and seeing Tang Tianyu wake up, she couldn't help but spit out her cute tongue mischievously. "It's time to change the dressing." After saying this, the little nurse didn't care how Tang Tianyu reacted. She approached the bed and quickly picked up the medicine bottle and began to change Tang Tianyu's medicine. As the little nurse's body got closer and closer to Tang Tianyu, a fragrant body scent came over her face, and her frail and boneless body was tightly attached to Tang Tianyu's arm. So soft! This is Tang Tianyu's first feeling. Immediately afterwards, Tang Tianyu's whole body stiffened, and he dared not move at all. Because in his tragic life in the past 18 years, apart from his mother, no woman has had such close contact with him. Therefore, he doesn't know how to react, so he can only be rigid, because if one is not handled properly, which arouses her resentment, what should be done? Originally, he thought he could get through this embarrassing time soon, but what he didn't expect was that the little nurse seemed to be bent down because of a dressing change, and her body was closer to Tang Tianyu. Suddenly, a piece of white blossoms greeted Tang Tianyu's eyes. The distance was so close, as if as long as he raised his head, the tip of his nose could touch the softness. Tang Tianyu had never felt that whiteness was so dazzling. It made him feel dry in his body, which has been moisturized with several bottles of glucose water every day. The little nurse is 1.68 meters tall, but has a 360 body. The tight nurse uniform seems to be unable to support the rough waves, revealing a deep cleavage. In addition to this petite body, it is even more upright. At this moment, Tang Tianyu's brain, which had a low brain capacity, seemed to be a little inadequate, showing a blank space. There were only 4 big characters flashing in his mind, so big, so white. Uncontrollably, Tang Tianyu actually activated his ability uncontrollably. The little nurse's body trembled suddenly, and her hands that were changing the potion could not help but stop, because just now, she suddenly felt a sudden heat in her chest. It feels like a pair of big hands touched up, ravaged wantonly. At this moment, the only person who can do this is Tang Tianyu, and now there is only himself and him in the ward, so no one else will know about this, and the potion is about to be replaced. Although the little nurse is very I wanted to give this guy a slap, but her good professional ethics still kept her silent. However, the little nurse soon couldn't bear it, because the harassment did not stop because of her tolerance, but worsened. The whole body was trembling, and even the private parts were not let go, as if the whole body was connected. If it wasn't for the shame in my heart to stop it, I would have started groaning a long time ago. The little nurse changed the potion as quickly as she could in her life, and quickly stepped back a few steps, flushed, and stared at Tang Tianyu with an angry gaze. But what surprised her was that Tang Tianyu's hands were placed on both sides of his body naturally, and he did not move at all. But her body was still trembling constantly, and the harassment on her chest continued, and her 2 beautiful legs suddenly trembled, as if a strange liquid flowed out. "What?" the little nurse exclaimed. Her face was flushed, and she said nothing. She covered her cute face with her hand, and left the ward as if fleeing for her life. After escaping to the bathroom, the pleasure of the body slowly subsided, and the harassment on the chest did not continue. The red-faced little nurse looked in front of the mirror foolishly, wondering in her heart, what happened to me? What is going on here? How could this happen suddenly? Am I really? Thinking of this, the little nurse quickly shook her cute little head, as if to throw away those evil thoughts, patted her blushing cheeks with her hand, and thought viciously in her heart, I would never be like this, absolutely not. Just when the little nurse escaped from the ward, Tang Tianyu slowly woke up, because after the little nurse left, the scenes that made him blush also disappeared. At the same time, the ability stopped, the surrounding vibrations slowly disappeared, and the surrounding air slowly returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. This feeling is so strange. Why does it feel like the whole body is burned by fire, and the brain is completely crashed? Tang Tianyu lay on the hospital bed, desperately recalling the scene just now. Oh, how can I say, this is the sadness of a virgin. Just as Tang Tianyu was still thinking about the reason why he suddenly lost control, suddenly a wretched cry came from outside the door. Hey, God, here I am, do you see a beautiful guard here? A chubby head was stretched out of the ward, with wicked eyebrows, and he swallowed it back in the middle of speaking. This little fat guy was Tang Tianyu's high school classmate and his best friend, none of them. It was the first time to visit Tang Tianyu when he was injured, but with his wretched and evil intentions, I don't know who it was on. However, based on Tang Tianyu's understanding of him, he is generally not so humane. The fat man is called Zhang Hunan, whose name is the same as the gang boss in a Hong Kong movie, so he has always been proud of him. Taking him as an example, he was born with loyalty and is very good to Tang Tianyu. This is probably in addition to his parents. The only one who treats him better. Zhang Hunan's family can be regarded as a wealthy family. His dad relied on his unique vision to open several restaurants in the more prosperous area of H County, and because his dad relied on exquisite diplomatic methods to make friends. Therefore, many civil servants and wealthy businessmen like to go to them for consumption, and the business is not bad. And because Zhang Hunan's father is more generous and loves him very much, Zhang Hunan usually has a lot of pocket money, and he can be regarded as a pseudo-rich second generation. I don't know if it's because I grew up in a restaurant since I was a child, so Zhang Hunan likes to eat very much. As a result, he weighs more than 200 kgs at 175 meters. The car, the whole behemoth. However, this does not mean that he is a fat man with nothing. On the contrary, he is an extremely smart person with very good grades. He can almost be ranked in the top 5 in the class every time he takes an exam, unlike Tang. God bless is like waste material, the last time, and even the entrance to high school is because the parents spent money on it. It stands to reason that such a wasteful Tang Tianyu and the second generation of pseudo-rich Zhang Hunan can't make friends anyway. The two of them are like people from two worlds. They should be on two parallel lines and never meet. However, fate is so wonderful. During an ordinary after-school in the first year of high school, the fat man seemed to provoke someone and was surrounded by a dozen gangsters on the spot. The fat man's usually so-called good friend left the classroom early when he saw this situation, and even had a relatively normal relationship. Good classmates, when seeing this scene, they lowered their heads and hurried away. They didn't even have the idea of calling the police. The big class only left the fat man facing this group of gangsters. He was in a panic. When the fat man thought he was about to die, Tang Tianyu didn't know where to rush out and grabbed the fat man. While the group of gangsters were in a daze, they ran out of the classroom without saying anything. As a result, Tang Tianyu, whose body was waste, and Zhang Hunan, who weighed more than 200 jin, of course couldn't get past these gangsters who often fought. In the end, the two of them were trapped in a dead end and beaten beyond recognition. Their bodies were blue and purple. Was sent directly to the hospital for a full month before being discharged. Since then, Fatty has made friends with Tang Tianyu. According to the fat man, it is really rare to be able to make a friend who will never leave even in danger, and he will cherish it for a lifetime. Didn't you see his group of friends and dogs who just fled for their lives? No one is willing to share adversity with him. However, Tang Tianyu said shyly. In fact, he just couldn't understand the fat man being bullied by those people at the time. As soon as his anger came up, his head was stunned, and he rushed forward like this without thinking about anything. The fat man said nothing, just smiled slightly. At that time, when he was surrounded by a dozen gangsters, he thought everything was over. He swears to the God and Buddha that if someone saves him, if it is a woman, he will go after her and marry her as his wife, no matter how beautiful or ugly. If you are a male, you will become a brother with a different surname and will never leave. Because no one knew how terrified and uneasy he was at the time. He never thought that at a critical moment, he would be abandoned by those who usually seem to be very good friends immediately, without the slightest hesitation. Tang Tianyu was the only one who held out his arm to him. This thin guy who was only 1.5 meters tall and could be blown away by a gust of wind, actually rushed to a group of tall and vicious gangsters to save him. He was shocked at the time. How could this kid be so courageous? How dare he act on those vicious gangsters? How dare he rush over? You know, even the tall sports students in the class who are over 1.8 meters tall are so frightened by the gangsters that they don't dare to take a breath. What kind of power is hidden in that thin body? The fat man always thought that courage should be proportional to the size of his body, but after seeing Tang Tianyu compare with the people in his class that day, he only realized that he was wrong, and that he was wrong. There is no difference in body size for people who are truly courageous. Even a man with a stature like Schwarzenegger may be as timid as a rabbit in danger, even with a stature like a dwarf, he may have the courage of a lion. So, at that moment, he decided that no matter whether he had that oath or not, he must also make friends with Tang Tianyu, because this guy is really amazing. At that moment, the fat man felt that this guy was so dazzling that he couldn't open his eyes. Hey, no one is here. It seems that I came earlier. The fat man said triumphantly, opening the door, holding a basket of fruits in his hand, and banging, he rudely placed it on the table. Tang Tianyu smiled bitterly. This guy was still so rude, shook his head and said, "Don't you want to go to class today? Why come to visit me so early?" Hehe, I'm all sleeping in the hospital, right? It's a holiday time these few days. I woke up early today just to surprise you. How about, is there a feeling of happiness? The fat man said with a smile, sat down on the hospital bed, picked up a piece of fruit in the fruit basket, and ate it on his own. You kid, I've seen you through it a long time ago. Why do you come so early? Tang Tianyu attacked without any hesitation. Fatty is the kind of person who can open a dye room as long as he gives a 3-point color, so he can't be spoiled. The fat man chuckled, took another bite of the fruit, and said, "Sure enough, the parents who give birth to me are blessed by those who know me. God bless you, really know me too well. Don't tell me, I'm going to drive you away." Tang Tianyu sullenly, as if chasing people. Don't, I'll just say it." The fat man waved his hand quickly. You read www.yunsha.com and then lowered his head, looking around, as if he was paying attention to whether anyone around was eavesdropping. For a long time, he whispered mysteriously, "I heard that this hospital came to a beautiful young nurse with a great body, comparable to those Japanese literary heroines. No, as soon as I heard about it, I rushed over non-stop just to gather first-line intelligence. Of course, I also came to see you by the way. Feelings, come to visit me, just by the way." The fat guy who looks down on his friends. Tang Tianyu continued to slander in his heart. "How about it, have you seen that beautiful little nurse after you have been here for so long?" The fat man asked in a fascinating manner. "No." Tang Tianyu said angrily. He didn't know what to say to this lustful friend. However, the beautiful little nurse in the legend is not talking about her. That's it. The fat man looked disappointed, but he quickly became excited again, his eyes were raging, and he said excitedly, "Well, I just dig the ground 3 feet, and I will dig her out." Tang Tianyu's wry smile really couldn't stand such an excited fat man. If he puts his enthusiasm in this area into his study, he can get the first place if he is not sure. However, the fat man always said, "How can life always learn and learn, that's so boring. The most precious thing a person is life. Life belongs to a person only once, so he spends his entire life in the great cause of studying women. In this way, when he looks back on the past, he will not regret for wasting his years, nor will he be ashamed of inaction. In this way, when he is dying, he can say, "My entire life and all my energy are dedicated to the most magnificent cause in the world, picking up girls." Tang Tianyu. It can only be said that there is no limit to the shamelessness of a fat man. Song Kexin, 18 years old this year, is an intern in a secondary medical school. Because she was passionate about the profession of nurse when she was in junior high school, she ignored the wishes of her family and just signed up for a secondary medical school. However, this is nothing, because she has a strong family background, so no matter which career she chooses, it doesn't matter and will not affect her future. Therefore, Song Kexin's family didn't criticize her too much. After all, she had already chosen this way. It was done. In addition, the father loved her very much and was reluctant to make her sad, so even if her parents were unwilling, they could only acquiesce. Ns. At this time, Song Kexin has been in H County No. 1 People's Hospital for an internship for more than a month. Because the dean of this hospital is her aunt, even if no one knows her background, she will be polite to her. Also because of her aunt's deliberate care, those difficult patients and obsessive patients would not let Song Kexin serve. She only had to deal with some cute children and some patients who seemed harmless to humans and animals. Therefore, Song Kexin has never been in contact with patients with bad attitudes, or patients with sexual desires. Her experience in this area is pure and pure like a white rabbit. However, Song Kexin lost his temper today, showing such a shameful expression in front of the patient, and even some weird things flowed out of the private star. This made the pure Song Kexin flushed, and as soon as she was struck by lightning, she immediately asked her aunt for leave after she cleared her discomfort, and ran home as if she was running away. As soon as she got home, Song Kexin locked herself in the bedroom and covered herself with a thick quilt, like an ostrich. She didn't die, she was full of the shameful scene just now. Originally, she didn't feel anything about this patient who was as old as her own. Before this happened, she was just a passerby, no different from ordinary patients. In the past month, after all, she doesn't know how many people she has contacted, and it can be said that there are countless counts. Besides, this guy is not handsome, not tall, and his body is as thin as a firewood. How could I make such an expression? How can you feel that way? Is it really that I am sick? The bewildered little nurse hid in the bed, her lovely brows frowned, and her heart was constantly tangled. Time was like flowing water, and 3 days passed quickly. Tang Tianyu, who had already endured too much, insisted on leaving the hospital. Although Tang's mother wanted Tang Tianyu to stay for a few more days and observe carefully, but Tang Tianyu's stubbornness could not be disturbed, coupled with the doctor's repeated guarantees, so she had to ask him to advance. Discharged. Tang Aguo did not come because he still had work to do in the fast food restaurant and his business was very busy. Only Tang's mother came to pick Tang Tianyu back. However, this is not a big deal. Tang Tianyu understands his father's work fortune and is very considerate, so he doesn't take this matter to his heart. Have everything packed up, don't leave important things, or you won't be able to find them when you come back later. Mother Tang exhorted. I know. Tang Tianyu replied. That's how it is said, but Tang Tianyu doesn't actually have many things to pack, just some daily necessities. It's just a backpack, and there aren't many valuable things in it. Even if it's all lost, he won't. It's a pity. Doctor, is there anything else he should pay attention to after he is discharged from the hospital? Mother Tang asked. Although Tang Tianyu's body looks good now, injuries like this are most afraid of repetition, so she wants to avoid this happening as much as possible. Pay attention to rest and don't exercise too vigorously, and eat more nutritious foods that are easy to digest. Don't eat spicy, sour, mustard and other stimulating things, don't drink alcohol, don't eat shrimp, because shrimps are easy to scar. The doctor warned carefully. Mother Tang nodded in satisfaction, and meticulously wrote down the contents. Come on, Mom, I packed everything up. Tang Tianyu put everything in his backpack and checked it carefully. Feeling that there was no omission, he carried the backpack in his hand, turned his head and said to Mother Tang. After hearing this, Tang's mother hurriedly said to the doctor individually, and left the ward that had been living with Tang Tianyu for a week. When he walked out of the hospital, Tang Tianyu still had a little regret, because when he was leaving, he had not seen the little nurse who took care of him for a week. He went to the doctor's duty room just now and wanted to thank the little nurse for the news. It was the little nurse who had asked for leave 3 days ago. At this moment, Tang Tianyu suddenly realized that, no wonder the fat man turned the whole hospital over that day, and he failed to find the legendary Japanese literary heroine the little nurse. She had already asked for leave at that time, how could the fat man find her? At the end of the day, Yu read www.yuuganshu.com found a fat man who had no fruit in the morning, and stood in the ward, facing Tang Tianyu, cursing the guy who spread the news indiscriminately. The saddest thing was that he had been looking for a morning and found that besides the ant, the hospital was actually crooked melons and jujubes. It was very difficult to find something nice, let alone find the beautiful nurse who was too cute. This trip to search for beauty in the hospital not only completely reduced his aesthetics of beautiful women, but he might also suffer from a serious mental illness. If I find the guy who misplaced the news, I will definitely not let him go, and even dare to deceive this fat man. The fat man scolded fiercely. It is said that the fat man was so angry that he found the guy who was spreading information about the beautiful nurse through various means. He did not listen to his explanation, and directly executed the top 10 tortures of the Qing dynasty. The person is sad, the listeners shed tears. However, the reason why Tang Tianyu wants to thank the little nurse, to put it to the heart, these are actually secondary. He was mainly thinking about the scene 3 days ago, the fragrance scene, and the situation at that time, which caused a great impact on his soul. This is probably the first time he has had close contact with a woman, or girl, in 18 years, so he wants to get to know her well, at least he also needs to know her name. However, Tang Tianyu felt it was a pity that she was not here today, because it is very likely that in the future, he would never have the opportunity to know her again. Because although the area of H County is not very large, it is not as big as those big cities, but there are hundreds of thousands of people living here, and there is a huge crowd, and it is estimated that it will be difficult to meet again. Therefore, with a look of regret, Tang Tianyu got on the motorcycle that his mother drove. With a whistle, the back of the First People's Hospital of H County disappeared behind him. An hour later, Tang Tianyu returned home. Because Tang Tianyu's home is located in a relatively remote area of the county town, it is far from the hospital. However, even if Tang's mother drives a women's motorcycle, the speed is usually slow, but 1 hour is almost enough. As soon as he got home, Tang Tianyu put his things in, and immediately hid in the room and closed the door. Even Tang's mother called him desperately behind her back, but she ignored her. This bear kid, really? Mother Tang shook her head helplessly, giving up the plan to call Tang Tianyu out. Because she knows the personality of her child very well, because she is small and does not study well, many people look down on him, so she usually has no friends and her personality is very closed. If there is nothing to do, she will hide in her bedroom, not coming out all day. For this reason, Tang's mother has always wanted to change Tang Tianyu's introverted personality, so she often takes him out to make friends with neighbors the same age, but the effect is not great, and it seems that not many people are willing to play with him. Of course, if you ask those people why they don't play with Tang Tianyu, they will all change their faces. You said to go sports with Tang Tianyu? Don't be kidding, even if I go home to watch TV, I will never play with him. Go to hell, Bastard! Do not make jokes. Then why do so many people hate playing with Tang Tianyu? Let's give an example. For example, when playing basketball, Tang Tianyu is a tortured dish. It is commonplace to get blocked shots or something, pass the ball or something to the opponent. The most hateful thing is that he can't even shoot, almost every shot, even basketball. You can't touch the frame, let alone the basket. Another example is football. If a player can't defend, he can't attack. Nima, he often kicks the ball towards his door and conducts suicide attacks. Mad, is not that diligent to be an insider. What is the happiest thing about playing games? That is, win. Not afraid of opponents like gods, but teammates like pigs. Losing to a strong opponent is nothing at all, but you may learn more. However, if you lose the game because your teammates waste materials and often give others food, then who is not angry? Therefore, anyone who has exercised with Tang Tianyu does not want to play with him. At this point, Tang's mother gave up too. Her child is like this. Do whatever he likes. As long as Tang Tianyu can grow up happily, she will be satisfied. As soon as Tang Tianyu hid in the bedroom, he immediately lay on the bed with a very urgent expression, as if someone who was hungry to collapse suddenly encountered a sumptuous dinner. This is because he had to endure it in the hospital for 3 days, and there was nothing. Use superpowers. Imagine that a poor and crazy person suddenly gets a huge amount of wealth. You let him not get rid of it, but hide the windfall and don't use it. Is this possible? Therefore, it is not easy for Tang Tianyu to tolerate 3 days of not using his powers. Of course, this also has something to do with his fear of being caught and doing slice research. Therefore, as soon as he returned home, he immediately hid in the bedroom. You said, is there a safer place than the bedroom? So he was very excited, and even couldn't wait. He finally didn't have to worry about being discovered, and he could use his abilities at will. Therefore, Tang Tianyu forced himself to calm down, concentrate slowly, and activate his abilities. I saw that the air in the bedroom vibrated. The light shining into the bedroom through the curtains seems to be distorted, forming a rainbow. No, not only that, he actually felt the table, quilts, pillows and other substances in the bedroom were trembling slightly, and even the small particles that were invisible to the naked eye were colliding fiercely. Incredible! No matter how many times Tang Tianyu watched it, or how many times he used his power, he felt it was incredible. This feeling of controlling everything was like the creator performing a miracle. However, the ability to activate this time gave him a completely different feeling from before. When he first started in the hospital, he felt that he was using his abilities, which was very obscure and stiff, just like the feeling of a child learning to walk. But now he uses his abilities, but he feels very smooth, like an arm instructs, he will vibrate whenever he wants to, as if he has suddenly become an adult from a child. In fact, this was because Tang Tianyu had been in the hospital for a few days, and the power of the devil fruit had slowly integrated into his body. This ability had been engraved in the deepest part of his genes, melting instinct. Therefore, he felt that he was born to use this ability, and he would use this ability like an arm's command, just like instinct. As a result, the excited Tang Tianyu constantly tried to activate his abilities, shaking, and constantly shaking, and the surrounding matter was constantly trembling. The unique rhythm seemed to be playing a grand music party. Downstairs, Mother Tang was cooking lunch in the kitchen, because Tang Aguo and Tang Xieying were back soon, and her son was just discharged from the hospital, so to celebrate, she had to prepare a good lunch. However, after a while, she suddenly felt that the kitchen seemed to be trembling slightly, and the dishes, bowls, spoons, and chopsticks in the kitchen were also shaking, making a pop sound, and the sound seemed to be Tang Tianyu's bedroom. The movement that came out. Tang Tianyu, what are you doing? How did you make such a big movement? Don't you know I'm cooking? So Tang's mother shouted angrily. Tang Tianyu, who was playing happily, woke up abruptly. He felt that he seemed to be too overwhelmed. If someone finds out that he has superpowers, it will be no fun. He quickly explained, "Nothing, Mom. I'm doing it. Move things. Then be careful. Don't make such a big movement." Mother Tang reduced her anger a little. Move things? Only by moving something can you make such a big move. However, this thought only flashed through Mother Tang's mind. She was very busy and had to prepare a good lunch. This was no big deal. Mother Tang was not interested at all. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I know. Tang Tianyu replied. Mother Tang nodded in satisfaction and started to get busy again. In the bedroom, Tang Tianyu showed a grateful expression. Fortunately, his mother didn't pursue it, or else he didn't know how to explain it. However, this incident also reminded him. Although the home is safe, you have to be careful, or else there will be no time to cry if something really happens. But such a crazy ability to activate is actually beneficial. Tang Tianyu, who has the spirit of a scientist, has tried countless times and found that the range of vibration that can be controlled now is only about 1 meter in radius. If it exceeds this range, he can basically not control it. Moreover, the number of activations is also limited. He can only use it for about an hour. If it exceeds this time period, he will basically be dizzy and lose all energy. He can only continue to use his abilities if he rests for a period of time. According to Baybeard's memory, this seems to have something to do with the strength of his own mental power. If it is of the level of Baybeard, even if he fights for 3 days and 3 nights, he will not feel tired. However, after playing for about an hour, the tired and paralyzed Tang Tianyu lay on the bed feebly, closed his eyes, and slowly recovered the mental energy consumed by his ability to activate. Although Tang Tianyu is very tired at this time, there is still a kind of excitement on his face. Now that he has this ability, will he still be called waste material blessing, and will he be laughed unscrupulously? At the moment, he had an impulse, wanted to show his abilities, and scared the group of people who often laughed at him to death, and wanted to see the stunned expressions on their faces. Fortunately, he suppressed the thoughts in his heart in time. If he really did that, he might be caught by some white coats tomorrow. God, come down to eat soon. Mother's voice sounded downstairs. Well, I know. Tang Tianyu replied. Tang Tianyu struggled to get up from the bed. Although his current mental strength has not been fully recovered, if he only walks, there is still no major problem. Besides, he is so hungry that his chest is pressed against his back, so even if he crawls, he has to crawl to eat. When he walked out of the room, Tang Tianyu secretly thought, the next time you activate the ability, you must not overdraw like this again. This feeling is so uncomfortable, it's like being hit hard by someone from behind. As soon as he entered the living room, his eyes were deeply attracted by the scene in front of him, as if a magnet was attracting iron filings, and he would never be able to remove his eyes. No matter how many times you have seen it, you will find it extremely beautiful. Scene. An extremely beautiful girl is sitting quietly at the dining table. Her long, jet black straight hair reached her waist, her silky voice, and her white face like snow were amazing. She was wearing a beautiful black dress, like a fairy in a fairy tale. This is Tang Tianyu's sister Tang Xieying. But unfortunately, her attitude towards Tang Tianyu was obviously not so friendly. I saw Tang Xieying pouting her cute little mouth, squinting her eyes, and looking at Tang Tianyu with a dissatisfaction, as if she was blaming him, and the whole family shouldn't be waiting for him. Although this dissatisfaction is very subtle, Tang Tianyu has been with her for so long, and he is still very keenly aware. However, Tang Tianyu didn't say anything, and didn't care at all. Anyway, this sister had a prejudice against him, it was not a day or two. After all, his younger sister is not a waste material like him. She is excellent in study and versatile in sports. She is the pride of the #1 high school in H County. She is a genius girl who is known as the school flower. At least there is a strengthening group in the number of people who pursue her in school. In comparison, Tang Tianyu's body is wasteful, the last in the exams year after year, is worthless, can be called the shame of the number one high school in H County, and is often the object of ridicule. Compared with his sister, he is the toad who wants to eat swan meat, the ridiculous supporting role under the shadow of the protagonist, and the pile of weeds in the corner that even passers-by are too lazy to trample. Sometimes, he even thinks that this guy is not his sister at all. If it is really his sister, then why is she amazing in appearance, but she is not good in appearance, she is brilliant, but she is stupid, she is in shape tall, but he is Wu Dalan. God is really unfair. His sister is the perfect apple that even God can't bear to bite, and he himself is the tattered apple that God eats only with apple cores. In this case, how could the relationship between their two brothers and sisters be good? It is a great blessing for them not to turn their heads into enemies. Therefore, every time when Tang Tianyu was injured and hospitalized, she also constantly found out all kinds of excuses not to visit Tang Tianyu in the hospital. In the living room, however, Tang Tianyu has become accustomed to this kind of scene, because no matter how beautiful things are, if they get along day and night, they won't feel that they are so precious. So, he just glanced at it, and walked to the dining table carelessly, sat down on the chair, picked up the tableware, and started to serve the meal, but Tang Xieying seemed very upset at Tang Tianyu's behavior, staring with her eyes. "Look at him." Tang Tianyu looked at it, not to be outdone, and stared back. Two fierce gazes clashed in the air, as if they collided with a trace of fierce sparks. Tang Tianyu and Tang Xieying both slanted their eyes and despised each other with very vague gazes. After a while, Tang Xieying first retracted her gaze, snorted coldly, and turned her head aside, with a face of disdain, indicating that she did not want to ignore Tang Tianyu. Tang Tianyu was furious and thought bitterly, "Humph, what's so great? Don't you just look a little better and learn better?" But the character is so bad that he will definitely not be able to make good friends in the future. Just when Tang Tianyu was thinking about it, Mother just brought out the last dish from the kitchen. The hot and delicious meal constantly teased Tang Tianyu's taste buds, making him forget the unpleasant thing just now. The father was holding the newspaper in his hand, watching intently, and seeing that the food was ready, he put down the newspaper in his hand. "How about it, do you feel better? Why do you look tired?" Tang Aguo put down the newspaper and said suddenly. "Hey? Yes, God, your face is so pale, is it uncomfortable?" Mother Tang seemed to have discovered this situation and exclaimed from the side. Tang Tianyu quickly explained, "I'm fine, I just feel a little tired. Just take a break." He couldn't tell the truth of the fact, so he could only pass this way. "That's it, then you have to rest for a while, and don't work too hard." After my mother heard this, she immediately relieved her heart, as long as it is not an attack. "Well, I got it." Tang Tianyu kept stuffing food into his mouth, and said haltingly. Seeing Tang Tianyu look like a starving ghost reborn, she couldn't help but smile. "Don't have to eat so eagerly. There is still a lot of food. Don't worry about not eating enough." Instead, his father looked at Tang Tianyu kindly and said, "Hee, since God is hungry, let him eat more. After all, God, he is still in the developmental stage, maybe he can continue to grow taller." Mother Tang nodded her head when she heard it. Her son's body has always been a heart disease in her heart. It is obvious that Tang's father is about 1.75 meters tall, and her height is not short, but Tang Tianyu's height is only 1.5 meters, a standard short, third-class disabled. Known as the modern version of Wu Dalan. No matter how the couple took Tang Tianyu to the hospital for an examination, they did not find any special problems. In the end, doctors can only blame the sequelae caused by premature birth. Therefore, for this reason, they all love Tang Tianyu this son very much, even can be said to be a spoiling, every time there is something delicious, they will first give him. It may also be because of this that Tang Xieying's psychological imbalance was caused, and she was very upset, thinking it was patriarchal and differential treatment. But she couldn't be angry with her parents, so she could only vent her anger on Tang Tianyu, often looking for Tang Tianyu. No, when Tang Xieying saw Tang Tianyu devouring a wolf, she looked contemptuous, lowered her head, looked at the food in the bowl, and kept muttering something in her cute little mouth. Her voice was very small, as if she was talking about pigs. Something like starving ghosts. Anyway, there is nothing good to say. Tang Tianyu had no time to ignore such trivial matters, because he was starving to death now. At this time, he discovered that the original activation ability not only consumes mental power, but also consumes a lot of physical power. Just now when he was desperately activating his abilities in the bedroom, he had already emptied his calories, and he was too hungry. He didn't have the strength to fight with his sister. It would be more realistic to fill his stomach first. Half an hour later, Tang Tianyu sat on the chair with a contented face, with a big belly, already unable to move. You know, he had eaten several bowls of rice just now. Normally, he was full after eating at most 2 bowls. Tang Xieying simply ate something because he couldn't understand his appearance of a starving ghost, so she ran back to her room. And my father was lying on the sofa and watching the news in the afternoon. At this time, Mother Tang was packing the tableware on the dining table, taking these dishes into the kitchen to clean them, and putting some leftovers in the cabinet. As the saying goes, she was in chaos when she was busy. Mother Tang was a little anxious when she was washing the dishes. She splashed some water on the ground. She accidentally stepped on it and slipped and fell to the ground. Mother Tang is also about 40 years old. Her body is not lighter than a person. After she stood up, she felt pain in her waist unbearable and her body couldn't stand upright. Even when she shouted for God, her voice was a little louder and she felt her waist. The pain is getting worse, as if being bitten by countless ants. Tang's mother had been working in her own fast food restaurant before. Although the business was not very prosperous, it was not bad, so she was very busy every day. Not only that, after work, she had to go home to prepare dinner for her family and deal with some tedious housework, so she was very tired every day. This has caused her lumbar muscles and spine to have some large and small problems. She has also been to the hospital for examination. The doctor diagnosed it as mild chronic lumbar muscle strain and spine disease. So whenever it rained and cloudy days, Mother Tang would feel back pain. It's just that Mother Tang's personality was strong and she had never told her family about this. But today, when she fell, her old problems recurred, and she was suddenly painful. I can't even walk. Mom, what's the matter with you? Tang Tianyu was almost frightened when he saw it. He rushed into the kitchen and carefully helped his mother out of it, but even if the movements were very slight, Tang's mother was in pain. Oh, it hurts. God, don't move, let your mother lie down quickly. Just when Tang Tianyu helped Tang's mother come out, Tang's father clearly saw from the side that a severe pain came from her waist. Tang's mother's face was deformed with pain, and big beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. So he quickly stopped Tang Tianyu's reckless behavior. Hey! Mom, what's the matter with you? Tang Xieying seemed to hear some movement from the room and ran out. Unexpectedly, as soon as she came out, she saw Mother Tang lying on the sofa with a pained expression on her face, and her heart began to tense immediately. God, you look at your mother, I'll get a doctor. Father Tang's face was serious, he didn't say anything, put on his coat, and opened the door of the room. After coming here for a while, I heard the motorbike starting downstairs. Son, don't worry, Mom is okay, hurry up and call your dad to come back. Isn't it just a small problem? It takes such a fuss, and I actually asked the doctor to come over. Mom, these are all old problems, just take a break. Now. Seeing her son's look anxious, Mother Tang said in a low voice, but there was a weak voice in her voice. Mom. Tang Xieying's eyes were red, and she couldn't help but choked up when she saw Mother Tang's painful look. She put her little hand on Mother Tang's waist and stroked it slowly, as if she wanted to relieve the pain for her mother. Pain, massage. Tang Tianyu seemed to have something in mind. By the way, massage can help the muscles relax and return to normal, and it can also stimulate the nervous system to send out signals to promote the muscles to gradually relax. Maybe massage can help my mother relieve the pain. The so-called massage is a special treatment method that directly acts on the muscles through special tapping, kneading, and other actions. After all, this special method is mainly to make the muscles vibrate to a certain degree, thereby increasing blood circulation. Circulation, it stimulates metabolism. In this case, my abilities may come in handy. Thinking of this, Tang Tianyu's eyes lit up, and he quickly said to Mother Tang, Mom, I almost forgot. I once had a special massage technique with an old Chinese medicine practitioner, which might relieve your pain. Mother Tang heard this, and asked in confusion, the special massage technique is based on the old Chinese medicine. Why don't I know about this? When Tang Xieying heard this, she also looked suspicious, staring at Tang Tianyu with big shiny eyes, as if she was saying, if you don't have this ability, don't take it out, otherwise it hurts our mother, and I can't spare you. This was all when I was young. At that time, because I was often hospitalized, I met an old Chinese doctor. He saw my skinny appearance and taught me a set of massage techniques, saying that it can strengthen my physique. The body became stronger quickly. So I learned this massage technique, but it had been useless before, so it was useless. Tang Tianyu explained quickly. Mother Tang and Tang Xieying had no doubt when they heard it, because when Tang Tianyu was a child, he was really thin and sickly. Then you better be careful, otherwise I won't let you go. Tang Xieying clenched Zaihoquan, pretending to be vicious and said. Know it. After speaking, Tang Tianyu walked up to Mother Tang and said softly, Mom, you roll over and lie on the sofa. Tang Tianyu helped his mother turn over, pushed up the clothes, and exposed the waist, which can be seen with the naked eye, and there was a red and swollen high spine on the waist spine. Although he didn't need to touch with his hands to activate his abilities, in order to avoid revealing his superpowers, Tang Tianyu put his hands gently on Mother Tang's waist, pretending to be massaging. Suddenly, a rush of heat was transmitted to Mother Tang's body through the skin. Tang Tianyu stabilized his emotions for a while, meditating in his heart the ability to activate. Because he really didn't understand what constitutes the correct vibration frequency for massage, he first adjusted the vibration frequency to the lowest, and then slowly increased it, carefully observing the mother's reaction during the period. At the beginning, Mother Tang didn't feel anything, she still frowned, her pain was not relieved, and it seemed that the massage had no effect. Tang Xieying saw this situation and immediately wanted to have an attack, but seeing that her mother showed no signs of aggravating the pain, she suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. She secretly thought, if her mother has any shortcomings, immediately stop this foolish brother. But as time went by, Mother Tang's brows slowly unfurled, and the cold sweat on her forehead didn't break anymore, her expression was gentle, like a kitten basking in the sun. Hey! It seems to work, it should be the vibration of this frequency. Tang Tianyu could clearly feel that under the bizarre vibration of Tang's mother's waist, the bruises on her waist continued to dissipate, and that piece of high swelling was getting shorter, and only one piece was left. Bruises with big palms. At this time, Yu reading www.yuncha.com. Tang's mother had undergone earth-shaking changes in her body. Her body was under a strange vibration, and her whole body was in a strange rhythm, just like a super martial arts master practicing. Driven by this strange vibration, the blood in Mother Tang's body was flowing rapidly, forming a strange cycle, as if a strange force was constantly surging in the deepest part of the body. The blood circulates through the 8 meridians, and all the impurities in the body seem to be excreted. With a boom, Blood flowed to her brain. Mother Tang's face flushed, as if she had eaten a ginseng fruit. Her body opened all her pores, her mind was clear, her waist pain had long since disappeared. Then, a sense of comfort without words surged in Mother Tang's heart. On the other hand, Tang Tianyu's face was pale at the moment, and he looked shaky. It seemed to be more painful than Tang's mother was injured just now, like an otaku who had spent several nights in a row. This is because his mental power has been consumed more severely just now, and he has not recovered yet. This time he was overdrawn again. The reason why he is not fainted and fell to the ground is only because of his strong willpower. That's it. Hey, it really doesn't hurt at all. God, what kind of massage technique did that old Chinese doctor teach you, and the effect is so good, it seems that even the stubborn illness of my mother for many years has been eliminated. By the way, it seems that the waists of your father, Lao Huang, and Lao Wang next door are not very good. You can also help them massage later. Hey, God, what's wrong with you, are you feeling ill? Mother Tang looked back and found that Tang Tianyu was pale, holding the sofa with one hand, the corners of her mouth twitching constantly. Massage. If you come here again, I am afraid I will die first, at least I have to wait for my mental strength to recover. Tang Tianyu's expression this time is not caused by excessive use of his ability. Mom, I'm fine, but the physical exertion just now was a bit heavy, so I can rest for a while. Tang Tianyu replied with strong spirits. He didn't want his mother to find out that he was weak, because his body worries his mother a lot. If he shows his painful appearance again, his mother still doesn't know what it will be like to be sad. After speaking, he went to the bathroom to wash his face and splashed some cold water on his face. The whole person's appearance seemed to be a little more energetic, and his mental strength seemed to have recovered a little, at least not like this. Feeling sick. After returning to the living room, my mother was already watching the romance drama on TV with great interest, and she was still discussing the plot with her sister very excitedly. It seemed that his mother was all right now, Tang Tianyu thought, very pleased. The younger sister also returned to her previous smile when she saw her mother's healthy face. Knowing that Tang's mother's painful expression just now really frightened her. God, go call your dad, don't find a doctor, it's all minor problems, and make a big fuss. It's so troublesome for others. Go call and tell him to come back soon. Seeing Tang Tianyu come to the living room, Mother Tang said immediately. However, as soon as the words fell, there was a dong 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 knocking outside the door. As soon as Tang Tianyu opened the door, he saw his father rushing in a hurry. At a glance, he saw Mother Tang and his sister watching TV happily. He was taken aback for a while. He didn't figure it out for a while, and it hurt just now. Mother Tang, who was speechless, was sitting on the sofa like an okay person, but Tang Tianyu saw that there was a man behind his father, so he quickly stepped aside and led him in. The father was also sober, and first gave the person he had brought to a seat, and said with doubts on his face, "Wife, didn't you just twist your waist just now? How could it be all right in a blink of an eye? Emotion, you still want me to twist my waist, don't you? Are you still looking for a mistress to come back?" Mother Tang's eyes widened, her waist straightened, and an overwhelming air overflowed. Suddenly, my father was in a cold sweat, and he stammered, "Ba, what am I talking about? Look at my crow's mouth. It should be done, it should be." Seeing his father's embarrassed look, Tang Tianyu was amused for a while, but he couldn't let outsiders watch the jokes in vain, and could not help but exclaimed, "Dad, haven't you introduced who this person is next to you?" When the father heard this, his grateful eyes immediately turned to Tang Tianyu. "Son, I didn't hurt you in vain. In the future, your pocket money, you Lao Tzu decided to double you." Mother Tang snorted when she heard it, and stopped pursuing it. After all, there were outsiders, so she couldn't say anything serious. If it were passed out, wouldn't it be a joke? Let me introduce first, this is Lao Li, a doctor nearby. Wife, let Lao Li take a look at the wound on your waist. Father touched a cold sweat and said quickly. It's okay. It's just that the waist flashed accidentally. It's no big problem. I was massaged by God just now and it was fine. Really, it's already noon. Why are you bothering Lao Li? Lao Li, I'm sorry. You haven't eaten yet, why not just have a light meal here? Mother Tang stood up from the sofa with a smile on her face, and greeted Tang Xieying to serve the food, but the old Li said that he didn't want to stay at all, saying that there was something at home and he wouldn't let his father drive it. No way, Tang's mother had to let Tang Tianyu take 2 cigarettes that his father had just bought from the supermarket, squeezed them into him, and then sent him downstairs. As soon as he went upstairs, Tang Tianyu looked at his father with a weird look, and asked slowly, Dad, wouldn't that guy be a veterinarian just now? Although the sentence was questionable, the tone was surprisingly affirmative. You know, just now, the old Li was bare-chested, full-mouthed and bearded, and had a rough figure. He seemed to have the smell of a Shandong man. The most unbearable thing was that he still exuded an extremely strong smell of blood. God, he has never seen a doctor like this. When my father heard this, his face flushed, and he stalked his neck and said, Veterinarian, what's the matter with the vet? Somehow they have done surgery, and they have rich clinical experience. Although they are all done for animals, they can't hold people's technical cattle. It's called Lasuo, and it's never muddled. The more I got to the end, my father's voice became quieter. It seemed that he couldn't bear Tang's aggressive gaze, and his conscience became guilty. Say, my husband, why did you hire a vet to treat me? Do you want my waist to be more serious? Mother Tang said with a smile, her expression seemed very kind. But for Dad, this is terrible. It means that she is really angry. If an explanation is not good, maybe he will have to kneel and calculate tonight. It's so easy to say, how difficult it is to find a doctor here. It takes an hour to get to the city center, but your condition can't wait for that long, so I want to find an ordinary doctor to stabilize your condition first. So, I asked Lao Li to come over. Although he is a veterinarian, he occasionally helps people receive bones and treats some minor colds. He is also a famous barefoot doctor nearby. Also, Lao Li's medical skills are not bad, so many people come to see him every day. If it weren't for the relationship between me and him, but if you don't want to come, I'll have to go to his house another day. Thank you. What about them? But, you still don't appreciate it. Father Rory talked a lot like this, trying to use many excuses such as pretending to be pitiful and difficult to get through. So, is he really a veterinarian? Mother asked with a ugly face, not at all confused by his father's performance. Father laughed for a while and said, I'm not, I'm just fainted, I just wanted to say, just catch a doctor here and help you treat it. I didn't expect that he is a veterinarian. Just after speaking, Mother Tang approached Old Tang with a smile, without saying anything. She stretched out a Qunqunzu hand, gently clamped the tender meat on his waist, and then rotated it 720 degrees. The action was finished in one breath. Very proficient, showing the exquisite martial arts of Tang Mu. Ah! With a scream, Old Tang showed a big bead of sweat on his face. Looking at the painful expression, it was more painful than when Tang's mother broke her waist. My wife, I was wrong, please forgive me. Old Tang desperately begged for mercy. Mother Tang sneered, Humph, forgive you, I think it's pretty beautiful. Even if I can't get a doctor, I actually got my old lady a veterinarian. Do you still want to marry a mistress? Furious. Speaking of this, the more Tang's mother thinks, the more angry she gets, and the harder she starts. Old Tang knew that he was wrong and didn't dare to argue, so he said, I'm sorry, I won't dare again next time, I won't dare anymore. Seeing this scene, Tang Tianyu and Tang Xieying looked at each other. For a rare occasion, the two of them left the living room silently while their parents were not paying attention. After coming out of the living room, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com, Tang Tianyu took a long breath and said with emotion, "Fortunately, we escaped in time, otherwise we will be reprimanded by the angry mother." Tang Xieying gave him a blank look, and said disdainfully, "Stupid brother, it's just that you are often reprimanded by your mother for doing wrong things. I'm a good student." Tang Tianyu was furious and just wanted to say something. Unexpectedly, Tang Xieying walked over with her slender feet, and violently and forcefully stepped on the back of his instep with her slender feet. "Ah!" With a scream, Tang Tianyu grinned in pain, and took a few breaths of cold air. "Crazy woman, what on earth do you want to do?" Tang Tianyu said angrily. Tang Xieying snorted, looked at him arrogantly, and said, "Don't be overwhelmed, you idiot. Don't think that if you cure your mother, I will treat you with admiration. In my mind, you will always be just a big fool." After speaking, she raised her little head high, like a proud little peacock, without turning her head back, put her hands on her back, her hair wiggled, and walked back in brisk footsteps. "Own bedroom. What the hell, this crazy woman, what the is she doing?" Tang Tianyu was a little baffled by his sister's behavior, confused. After thinking for a while, he still couldn't understand, it was really a woman's mind, don't guess, guess and guess you still don't understand. Although his sister is only a half-finished woman, she is essentially the same. Forget it, I don't want to think about it, it's a waste of brain power. Just do what you love, I have to go to class tomorrow. Tang Tianyu also walked back to his bedroom. Because he is very tired now, if he doesn't rest, he will probably pass out directly, so he doesn't have the mood to care about this kind of thing.